Welcome. I'm so glad you joined us, and you're going to be glad you joined us too, because in this next little while I'm going to give you as much as I can to help you understand why this 5-step assessment, these 5 questions that you can ask yourself, can help you turn your family life around and get the cooperation that you want from your children, help to stop them fighting with themselves and with each other, and to be able to really create the home life that you want. So the very basis of these 5 questions comes from a statement that I heard many years ago, and it is this: life is where I put my attention. And just let that settle in for a moment. Let's take a look at that statement. Life is where I put my attention. Have you ever noticed that whatever you tend to look for seems to suddenly be there most of the time? For example, ever bought a new car and then suddenly saw that same model of car everywhere you looked on the road, even though you thought you might have had something more unique? That's the way the universal law works. What we tend to be looking for, we tend to find. Now this can get us into quite a bit of trouble sometimes. For example, if I think that my partner is going to be cheating on me and I'm always looking for evidence to prove that he's been cheating on me, I eventually will drive him nuts to the point where he goes and cheats on me just to get out of my hair. So what we focus on tends to grow, and it's where we have our power in our life. And with parents, most of us have learned, even through being parented, to focus on finding fault, to focus on what's not working. And we do this not just with our children, but also inside our own mind. Do you know we have 60,000 thoughts a day, 60,000 on average, and most of them are negative. If you're normal, about 90% are negative. And 90% of them you had yesterday. So the first question I have for you is, when you look at these other 5 milestones, I want you to say, how do I put my attention around my thoughts on those issues? How much time do I spend with this thought that goes round and round inside my head? And secondly, I want to introduce you to the 5 questions and help you understand how you can use your attention and what you can focus on so that you can help to stop your children from fighting and getting the cooperation that you need. So if you just look over here, here are the outline of the 5 questions. The first question is, how much attention are you spending on the conflict that arises in your home? Now let's make this as concrete as possible. So I want you to imagine that you actually have $100 worth of energy that's coming in to your system every day, and you are choosing where to focus that, and that's where your attention goes. So of that $100 worth of energy, how much of it goes to the acting out incidences in your home? When your kids act out, how much of your attention is going there? And that attention is probably going in a big spurt because it's not dribbling out just bit by bit the whole way through. So I'm betting that you spend quite a bit of attention in acting out. And what happens is that our children then learn to act out to get our attention, because that's when they feel our most focused attention. We're going to go into this in the next couple of videos in greater depth, but for right now I just want you to understand that if you are focusing all your attention, your intense attention, every time your children act out, that they could well be acting out just to get your attention. And so between now and when we go into this further, I'd like you just to say, what happens if I don't focus so much attention there? What happens if I stop worrying about all the conflict and the fighting and stop talking about it? What happens to it? Just be curious and see how things begin to shift, because I'm betting they will. So the second question we have is, How much of that attention do you give to the one-way directives? These are all the managerial comments that we make towards our children, you know. Did you get your homework done? And don't forget your shoes. And come to the table now. And it's time for bed now. And we throw these things out and stop running and stop. And sooner or later, our kids are receiving so many of these one-way directives that we've just thrown out and haven't even looked to see whether they've followed them through, that they don't hear us anymore. And then we finally get to the point where we say, how many times do I have to tell you? Well, are you counting how many times you have to tell them? I bet it's a lot if all you're doing is sending one-way directives, because it's not gaining their cooperation. Now the next thing, and you can see here the sun is starting to come out when we start to deliberately set our attention on seeking out the opinions of our children. Even a baby, a young baby has an opinion. Just that attitude of being curious about our children and curious about what they're thinking and how they're feeling and what's going on for them, and then really trying to get in there and understand what it is going to shift the dynamics in your family, and you're going to find yourself drawn to them and they to you in a way that they now are willing to listen to you and probably even want to listen to you, especially if once you sought their opinion out, you really listen and you understand what real listening is. Because listening with your heart and soul and mind, listening to truly understand, listening in a way that you're really present and there with your children, listening in a way that you're listening for their emotions. How well do you listen is this question. How much attention do you give to listening? And the next one, and you can see we got bright sunshine and birds flying everywhere on this, is how much attention do you give to real conversation? That's a meaningful, let's go back and forth and talk about things, let's discuss. Not me interrogating the kids and then giving the answers back, but actually having a discussion. And I might add here too, how much attention is given to having fun with your family. Because the more fun that you can have with your family, the more your children will want to listen to you. The more natural authority that you will have. You see, when we have fun with our kids, when we give lots of attention to real conversation, when we learn to truly listen and seek out their opinions, suddenly they want our opinion too. And they will be the ones who will be coming to you to ask your opinion about all the things that you might otherwise be worrying about them doing, that they wouldn't dare come to you because they might have thought that they'd just be in trouble. So these 5 questions, just take them and work with them. And in the next video, we're going to start to go deeper into each, because there's a way to make conflict work for us. We don't just ignore the conflict and do nothing else. There's a way to make it work for us. There's a way to send directives in ways that children will listen the first time. There are ways and avenues to seeking out opinions and listening and creating conversation that I want to give you some more tips on, that are going to shift the dynamics in your family. So until then, enjoy, observe, and I'll see you soon.